We have reached a golden era for this sport. Look, we all respect the champions that have come and gone and dominant runs. But Monster Energy Supercross has reached a point where truly a variety of riders could win the title, including 2 different single-time champions over the last 2 years. Someday someone will dominate again, and then we'll look back at these years of unpredictability as a truly golden era. Welcome to your 2020 Monster Energy Racer X preview show for Monster Energy AMA Supercross and FIM World Championship. Jason Weigandt, Steve Matthes, Jason Thomas. We are in the palatial estate that is Pro Circuit. The sport works through Corona, California. It flows through the veins of this building. We're really glad that Mitch Payton and the folks opened their doors to us 2nd year in a row. Thanks to our sponsors, Monster Energy, Fly Racing, Pro Taper, Matthes Tires, and LS2 Helmets. That is our show. Those are our sponsors. This is episode 1 of 5. Don't complain if we left your favorite rider out of this episode. We have 4 other episodes coming. Do you understand? Steve and JT, in this episode, we will be analyzing 3 riders. 2 have won this title the last 2 years, and 1 that coulda, shoulda, woulda, and does have 3 straight Lucas Oil Pro Motocross 450 outdoor titles. So we'll start with Cooper Webb. We'll also have Jason Anderson and Eli Tomac in this episode. Ken Roczen will be in episode 2. Chill out, everyone. So let's talk about Cooper Webb. Cooper Webb, I don't believe anyone was predicting would win the title coming into the 2019 season. Again, we're in an era of unpredictability. Who knows? Our guy Trent over there said, I was calling it. All right, good job, Trent. There's one of you. So what does this mean? Is Cooper Webb the next dominant guy? Is it like, just like RV, he's going to win the next year? Just like Dunge, he's going to win the next year. McGrath, Carmichael, Stu, they're just going to win? Or are we in this anyone can win at any time? Where is Cooper right now?
Yeah, it's interesting, Jason, and thanks everybody for watching. Appreciate it. So I think, unlike Jason Anderson, who I think came out of nowhere to win that title a little bit, Cooper Webb is an amateur prodigy. He's won everything you could in the 250 class. So his jump to 450 Supercross champion, although unexpected, there's some history there of being the best for Cooper Webb. The KTM did a lot for him, obviously, after a couple of years subpar at Yamaha. So I like Cooper's chances to defend over Jason Anderson last year. Okay. But there is this green monster lurking over this entire series.
He's been lurking for a long time. I'm going to give you some stats. This is really the key to Webb's title drive last year. 7 wins, 13 podiums, but most importantly, 17 top 10s. He never had a bad race last year. He only crashed twice that I remember. First turn in Anaheim 1 and in the mud race at San Diego. So you can talk about the flash and sizzle of everyone else, JT, but the bottom line is he was just the most consistent, and year after year we're seeing that's really what it takes.
Well, and he really took advantage of the situation every single time. He got the start. Every single time we thought we could count him out, he would get a good start, put himself at the front, stay on the podium every single weekend where everybody would have a bad race or up and down. He just was that guy that you could count on every single weekend. If he can continue to get those good starts and put himself into good positions, I don't see why he can't defend. And going back to your point about whether he won everything in 250 class, moved up, if you erase those 2 years on the Yamaha that he struggled, this would not be a surprise. The only really surprise was that he struggled for 2 years and then finally found his form. So when you look at it on paper, removing those 2 years, he's really right on schedule for his 450 career.
Yeah, that is a good point. It was a bidding war to get Cooper Webb just at the end of 2016, not that long ago. Everyone thought he is the next guy. So you're right. In a way, him winning a Supercross title, if you told anyone at the end of 2016 he'd be 2019 champ, everyone would say, well, yeah, that makes sense. But now that he is champ, is there a chance of complacency? Because we love to tell this narrative when a rider is down and then he has an up, it was because his back was against the wall. He got motivated. He got hungry. Is this like Rocky against Clubber Lang, Steve? Is he going to just start wearing fur coats and someone else is going to be like, bring your girl to me, I'll show him a real man?
I don't think so. Cooper's a winner. He's been a winner. Okay. And I think he'll certainly be a title contender this year. He's not going to fall off the map. You know, last year with Anderson, one really poor race, one really good race, and then exited with injury. So the verdict was out on Jason Anderson.
We don't know.
For sure. But I think Coop will be there all year long, and I think he'll be getting wins and everything else. He knows that team. He knows the bike now and everything else. But I think for somebody like Cooper Webb, I think we saw it last year, his confidence grew with that Triple Crown win, with the Pistols with Kenny, and then the Dallas win where he took it from Kenny. We saw his confidence literally grow throughout the series. So going off that, first 3 to 4 races of 2020, I think, for Cooper Webb's title defense are going to be huge. Where's he at? How's he doing? If a guy who works on confidence like Cooper Webb is right there, watch out. If he's not, maybe not.
Yeah, I couldn't agree more. He's always been that guy, and he's so dangerous with confidence. And I think that's really what hurt him in the 2017 and 2018 season is he had literally zero confidence. So these guys messed around, they let him get at the front, and then once he started building, it was just on this track that they couldn't get him off of. And he wasn't absolutely dominating weekends, right? The race in Arlington that you mentioned, barely beats Ken Roczen. The Anaheim 2 race, he barely wins there in the Triple Crown in a battle, but he just started racking up points, and then they just could not slow the train down. So I think you're right. Even with a 5th place at Anaheim 1, it was an incredible ride from the back, but I think that got his confidence building. Like, I was faster. I think he may have even had
the fastest lap of the main
race,
yeah,
right?
Yeah.
So when he's at the back of the truck after the race, he's like, I got 5th place, I was dead last, and I had the fastest lap. These guys might be in trouble. So that's a really dangerous spot for these other guys to be in. If I'm in Jason Anderson's camp, Eli Tomac's camp, Ken Roczen's camp, that's step number 1, is knocking the confidence out of Cooper Webb early and then go about your business. But we all know after so many titles now how dangerous he is if he gets rolling.
I really admire Coop because this sport is so mental, and when you have some bad years, it's really hard to climb back up that mountain. If you think about the guys, you're either on top of that mountain or you're not. Well, Coop wasn't after 2 years at Yamaha. And I really admire the fact that he was able to overcome that and become a champion. And I also think about last year, how many times in qualifying, 8th, 10th, struggling in the whoops, whatever it was, and we go into the main event going, this isn't going to be his night. And damn it, the champion in Webb rose up and he made it happen. If he didn't end up winning, he got on the podium.
Well,
and so I admire Cooper Webb. I really like that whole story, and the sport's better off with him in it, for sure.
I think that's where the starts really came in, because on the off nights, like, let's go back to Detroit, he was struggling mightily in the whoops, just could not get through them. His qualifying time was terrible, and then all of a sudden he gets to great starts at night. He's right there, right? And that just saved him time and time again, was getting to the front and finding a way to get through it, whether he had to jump through the whoops or finding a way to persevere. So to me, I absolutely agree with you. And I also wonder, you know, we've talked about this Aldon Baker factor for so many years with all these riders. And a very underrated part of Aldon Baker's training regime is the mental side. And for a guy like Webb, you know, we know he works off confidence, that we just mentioned. Aldon Baker breeds confidence into these guys. So it's almost like a match made in heaven. If he listens to Aldon and believes in it, you take a guy that feeds off of it like Webb, and then you have this unstoppable force that we saw last year.
Look, Marvin Musquin, Red Bull KTM, he's out for the year. We know this with an injury.
Yes.
But so that means if you go off history, there are only 3 riders that are going to win this 2020 Supercross Championship.
9 in a row.
Yes.
9 consecutive Supercross titles for riders working with Aldon Baker.
But then what? So then Reed broke it, and then what was it before that?
Yeah, Reed's really the only guy in between.
Right. So
it's something crazy. I think it's like 17 out of 19 or
Ex-
something.
Even
Exactly.
Even then, it was an Aldon Baker rider that was tied for the lead when James Stewart, pulled out
or
of the
Carmichael
series
didn't race the
in
whole
08.
season.
Sure, right.
It's ridiculous,
Yeah, so-
this run that started in 2001, so it's not a fluke anymore.
So we have the
It's
title
almost
coming
20
for 3
years.
riders, basically.
Okay, all right.
One thing I want to mention too is maybe it's North Carolina.
Well,
I mean-
we are looking good.
Between Phil Nicoletti, Justin Brayton, and Cooper Webb, the championships reside in North Carolina, all of them.
There are 3 450 Supercross champions in this world. Cooper Webb is the big one.
Yeah.
But yes, North
Yeah.
Carolina,
So-
churning out champions. It's just a different approach that Webb has. Last year, we did not hear any flying at the test track rumors. He then admitted to us later, he's like, dude, it was pretty bad. They had to sit me down. I wasn't riding well enough during the week. The training was difficult. I haven't heard any flying at the test track. Oh my gosh, he's in such great shape. I haven't heard that again. But here's the difference between most riders. We always hear how well they ride during the week, and if they could just replicate that on Saturday, Cooper gets better on Saturday. So even though I've heard some, I don't know what I'm seeing right now, Cooper himself admitted up until like the first week of January last year, he didn't know how well he would do.
Right.
And then the racing changed it. So whenever you want to claim that a rider is a head case, just counterbalance that by saying we've seen a rider who isn't, and we've seen what a difference it makes.
I don't think no matter what, you can say that Cooper Webb does not have a shot at repeating this championship. There's just no way.
No,
The guy will
Yeah.
be there every single week.
If he is as consistently great at starts as he was last year,
Yeah.
he's going to put himself in a place to succeed every single weekend.
Really what it comes down to is we know he's got a shot, but we are used to seeing years such as, they got a poster over here saying 3 in a row and counting for Ryan Villopoto, and we knew the 4th was going to happen. We just knew it. Stamp it. Ryan Dungey after 2015, stamp 2016. That's the difference. Is Cooper Webb getting to that level? Stamp it? We'll have to see. Thanks to our sponsors again, Monster Energy is our title sponsor, LS2 Helmets, Fly Racing, Pro Taper, and Matthes Tires. We have now reached that part of the show. It is an annual tradition. Here it comes, everybody. Is it the year for Eli Tomac? Steve, what do you think? No, don't even bother. Don't even bother. Let's go to last year's show, right here at the Pro Circuit Shop, and see what Steve had to think about Eli Tomac going into 2019.
He's the fastest guy. This is the year he puts it together. He's got the bike. He's got the package. I mean, absolutely. For me, I just think it's going to be Tomac's year. I mean, I love going to monster parties, and I want to just... Eli Tomac is my monster.
Oh, crushing it on Eli Tomac. Well, that's it. You're done with Eli Tomac. You're done. You said he would be your monster last year. He did not come through again somehow, despite many nights of clearly being the best rider in the series. Same thing in 2018. Same thing in 2017. We're into 2020. It's the same story.
He came into the series with a back injury.
Yes.
Then at San Diego after the win, he told us the back was a non-factor and it was perfect.
Yep. And they got the settings on the new bike where they wanted it.
We assumed the winds were going to rain down after that.
Yes.
In the rain of San Diego, ironically. And they didn't. And he didn't win it again. And, you know, when you talk to the Monster Energy Kawasaki folks, the big brass, they tell you that back in Japan, I know he's got a bunch of Lucas Oil Pro Motocross Championships, but they tell you back in Japan, they want one thing. They want a Supercross title.
Yes, and I'm sure Eli does too.
Yes, and so second year on the bike, so they're going to figure that out.
Yeah.
Now, Jeremy Martin of the Geico Honda team has been with him now, so there's a little bit of bias in there, but the word is he's flying.
Flying at the test track.
I know. All
right.
I listen, Eli, please, for the love of God, please get this done. Please. We all know you're the fastest guy. We all know you got a great team. You're gnarly. You're a bad dude. Please, just get it done.
Is this the definition of insanity? Saying the same thing now 4 years in a row, JT? Are we getting to the point where we're like, hey, that's just bad racing luck or things haven't worked out? Or eventually is it like, this is just a pattern. This is just the way it is. There's something about Eli where this just isn't ever going to happen. And it's not like each year is exactly the same. There's different problems each year. But do we need to start thinking there's something that is preventing this from happening, or rip a tear off, clean slate?
It's been a little bit different every time. I am going to go again. If you want the definition of insanity, I can't quit him. I can't quit him. You watch him, and every time he seems like he's the best guy. Whatever's happening, whether it's mental or crashes or the back injury, or last year there was a lot of drama within the team, crew chiefs leaving, all kinds of things happening, right? So what do you attribute that to? The only big difference this year, he's got a new teammate that might be very good, which we'll get into in later episodes. But when you look at it on paper, he should be your champion. He's won 3 Lucas Oil Pro Motocross Championships in a row.
Yep.
He's been your winningest rider over the last several years.
What is he all-time in Supercross win list? What is he?
I think he's like 6th or something now. But he's
won like half the races.
He's way ahead of anyone he's racing against right now.
Oh
way
my
ahead,
God, he has so many wins.
But he's won like half of the races over the last 3 or 4 years.
He won half of the races in 17 and 18, and then Webb did win more than him last year, but he still won a lot.
Yeah,
so
but if you factor it all out, like he's won a lot of races. To have 0 titles is crazy.
Yeah.
So I'm going to keep picking him. If I'm wrong, I'm wrong, but who else do I want to pick? I guess I could pick Webb. He was great last year, right? But when I look at it on paper, how much winning Tomac has done over the last few years, he's had a really clean offseason, which I attribute his last year being difficult to the non-factor back injury that we learned about. Because I think if he came in...
non-factor?
Right. I think if he had a stronger January, the championship looks a lot different. So let's hope, we're sitting here in early mid-December, let's hope that he comes in healthy and finally delivers on this title.
For 4 years in a row, Eli Tomac is holding a 19 with the dealer showing a 5, and he's lost.
We're talking blackjack now.
Yeah, I'm just saying, this is the analogy. He's got a 19 going in, dealer's got a 5, you got this, and the dealer pulls out a 6 or whatever, and Eli goes down. He's a heavy favorite, no matter what you do. If you took this to Vegas, if you took it to Lloyd's of London, if you took it to anything, he's the heavy favorite going in, and he's got to get this done.
A couple things here. Because of this unpredictability of the championship, I don't think Jason Anderson was everyone's #1 pick 2 years ago, wins the title. Cooper Webb was not everyone's #1 pick last year, he wins the title. I've had a lot of discussions with people as why do we have a little more unpredictable racing? And there's a million theories out there. Every bike and team has gotten better. Everybody's training program's better. Maybe the level is the same. Or it could just be that Eli Tomac and Ken Roczen, who were set up to be the next 2 guys, just like Villopoto and Dunge,
Just like Chad and Stu.
Just like Chad and Stu, just like McGrath or Carmichael. They just haven't gotten it done. That could be the ultimate factor. Now, by the way, at the end of the year last year, Eli finally did get the bike together, started winning races, and it was like, okay, he's not going to win the title, he's too far back, but he started winning races, and then the next to last round in New Jersey, he crashed in the same spot in the whoops 2 times, came back and won Vegas, but it's still that reminder. Even when he did get the bike where he wanted it, even when he got back to dominance, that ride he had in Denver, his home race was unbelievable, but he still had that chink in the armor in New Jersey that makes you say,
but don't you just feel that he's lost more titles than other people have won? That's how I look back, and I
can't argue.
I don't think anybody can argue.
Anything away from Webb winning last year. He was phenomenal. Jason Anderson, the same thing. But when I look back, and I think history will show this, it's gonna feel like Tomac lost those titles more than anybody took them away.
Whatever he is in career wins, it's phenomenal. He doesn't have a title. Look at the riders he's around. Look at where he is in career wins, and he has 0 titles. I mean, we were talking about Kevin Windham having 0 titles. Eli probably has double the wins that Kevin Windham has in his
totally
career.
Different.
Do you guys think? There's my buddy Kris Keefer who's going to show up in a little bit here.
We'll get to him. Yeah.
He's got this dumb theory, but maybe I'm starting to think it works. Does Eli's home life? Does he need to be happier to win this thing? Look, he doesn't really like doing the media that much. He's a very business-like kind of guy at the track. You know, I hang out with the Cowie guys a little bit.
Wasn't he in a stable relationship all of 2019?
But maybe there's other things going on, and he needs to be happier in his home life to win this Supercross title. I don't know. At this point, I'll throw out any theory that you want to have.
We have thrown out, I mean, the amount of theories we've had about the Eli Tomac program and why this doesn't come together is phenomenal. You mentioned Keefer. Yes, Kris Keefer, now part of Racer X. He is our bike guru in chief. We're going to talk a couple things here. Specifically, when we're talking Cooper Webb and Marvin Musquin, who is not racing this year due to a knee injury. When you want to talk bikes, the problem for both Webb and Marvin the last couple of years has been the whoops. Webb was not good in the whoops when they were fresh and deep and big in practice last year. Marvin, we've talked about his whoop thing for years. The KTM has been so good. They've won championships. Throw in the Husqvarna, which is under the KTM group. They've won many of these in a row now, dating back to 2015. So we're going to send it to Kris Keefer. And my question starts with, KTM's corner so well, they track so well. Are they giving up something in the whoops? Does it even matter? Do they have the right combination anyway?
There's 3 things Keefer knows about. Yeah. I'll leave one of them out of the show. It's a family show.
Yeah.
Sandwiches and dirt bikes. Those are his other 2 things that he knows a lot about.
Okay, so we'll ask him about lunch, and we'll ask him about the KTM in this episode of our show. Keefer, what about the whoops? What about the KTM?
All right, thanks, Weege. Don't adjust your screens. I don't have a mustache. I'm not as good looking as Ping, but I'm here. I'm with Racer X now, 2020. Big year for me, and it's a big year for KTM and Cooper Webb. Just like Weege talked about a little bit earlier, Webb had some problems in the whoops earlier in the year. But let me tell you something. Baggett is very fierce. That's the word I'm using, fierce in the whoops. So what does that mean for the KTM as a whole? The KTM, I feel like, is the best factory machine in the paddock. Why? It has a blend of everything. An easy-to-use roll-on power, just like you guys at home that are KTM fans, have your bike in the garage, you know how easy that power is to manage. That is no exception with the factory machine. I may and may not have had a little bit of time on a factory engine before, and let me tell you, it doesn't add gobs of power. All it does is add usable power. That machine hooks up so well on that grate on the start. If you watch Cooper Webb out there on the start, he gets off of the gate the best out of anyone. And that first 15 to 20 feet, so important. If you get a handlebar on your competition, good night. You got a whole shot. And that's going to help Cooper Webb for next year. Now, I'm going to give you guys some homework at home. 2020, you guys are up in the stands. You guys are watching the races. Study the KTM, the Red Bull KTMs of Cooper Webb's bike. Look at it. When he goes through the whoops, it stays straight. Why is that? Well, they added a brace last year to help rigidity of that frame. They needed some of that rigidity up front near the head tube area to get a straighter shot to make that KTM work in the whoops. Now, the other side of that is traction. There is not any other bike in the paddock right now that has as much traction as a KTM. You watch him roll a corner. Perfect example, you watch a finish line. You make a right-hand turn onto the straightaway. That front tire never gets off the ground. That bike is hooking up getting down, forward momentum, and there's no other bike like that in the paddock. If you were a little fly on the wall, and there was no cameras around, and you asked most of the riders which team they would like to be on, I would bet a lot of money, and I know Steve Matthes is a betting man, a lot of those guys would say the KTM Red Bull machine because of how easy it is to ride. How quickly those guys forget. Number 1 plate, Cooper Webb. See that? I don't understand it. Tomac is fast, but I like my guy Cooper Webb and the KTM Red Bull machine. Back to you guys.
All right, that's our man Kris Keefer. I'm going to pour one out, maybe a monster for our old buddy David Pingree, who has moved on, but he did great work on these shows, especially his drawings. We loved Ping's well-rounded drawings through the years, good, so yes. Remember you well, Ping.
Yeah,
and
that almost got us fired.
Yeah, Keefer, thanks for being on board and not tackling that topic. One more thing about the whoops. My buddy Johnny Oler, who used to work for JGR, now he's got his own suspension company, Art of War, he said, hey, is it possible that maybe whoops will just never be a factor anymore? We know they're probably not going to put as much lime in the dirt because they had some problems with that. Mm-hmm. Tracks are breaking down more. Longer main events, tracks are breaking down more. 450s move a lot of dirt. How many times did we see in practice gnarly whoops last year, JT, and it didn't turn out to matter in the main event where you could just jump through? Is the idea of having to blitz whoops to win races, is it over?
I don't think so. I think it's certainly less relevant than it was, say, 20 years ago. Mm-hmm. They do, when they roll the whoops in before the night show, they do knock them down as a unintended consequence of that. But there were tracks like Detroit where they were difficult at night, and we saw some guys maybe make some passes there. But to me, it's more of the hard pack tracks. The tracks, if they build them very big at Arlington or Glendale event like that, where they're going to stay built, that's going to be the difficult tracks. Tracks like St. Louis, Indy, Detroit, where they're going to break down. I think you are going to continue to see that jumping rhythm type situation, and that's a godsend for guys like Cooper Webb, and obviously Marvin's out, but those guys, they're basically biding their time. If practice doesn't go well, all they have to do is say, no problem, I'll wait till the night show racing, they're going to knock the whoops down, everything's fixed. I just have to get a good start then. So I think it's going to be situational, but yeah, to think the line will change everything, that I don't really buy into that.
Okay. 450s do move a lot of dirt, and these main events are long, so it's definitely affecting the track breakdown. Now, one rider who doesn't have a problem in whoops most of the time is Jason Anderson, who won this title in 2018, except one time the whoops got him, which was at the Husky practice track after round 3 last year. Anderson said it's the first time he had ever missed a whoop with his front wheel. He went down, bad arm injury, missed the entire season, and as you said earlier in the show, Steve, that was it. We don't really have a read on Anderson's title defense because he only raced 3 times.
Yeah, his season was going to go either way.
Yeah.
And it was interesting to see which way, but we never got a chance to. Yeah.
Absolutely. Yeah. So I asked the same thing. Where are we with Anderson? Is it just reset button? Do we say the same thing with Webb? Or like, oh, he already got a title. Maybe he's not as hungry as he used to be. I don't really know where to classify Anderson at all. We know he's elite. We know he's capable of winning races and podiums. I don't know where to classify him as favorite, third favorite, fourth favorite. It's really hard to put him into a position here.
I think, first of all, JT, take all the personality, the team fried stuff, all the social media, take that and throw it out the window. The guy works hard. You don't get to where you are with Jason Anderson by not, working hard at Baker's factory on and off.
He wants it.
He wants it.
He wants it. Okay.
So take all that off.
All right.
I'm as confused as you are, like all the things that you just said. I could totally see Jason Anderson winning a whole bunch of races and finishing top 3 in the championship and maybe repeating.
Yep.
Or I could see Jason Anderson, getting more top 5s and top 3s and having a solid year and getting a win or 2 out of the 17. And that's just kind of going, not so bad.
Yep.
I don't know where I sit on Jason Anderson. I am confused a little bit.
But don't you just wonder if, winning a Supercross title is the culmination of everyone's career? Like if you've done that, you feel like you've arrived in this sport, and forever they can't ever take that away from you. It's always going to be how you're introduced. It's always going to be an asterisk next to your name. I just wonder, where is his motivation, right? Is he going in like super hungry? I need to win. Like I haven't accomplished what I've really set out, as a little kid to do. I just wonder with him. He's got all these cool projects. Like Team Fried is awesome, really entertaining. But you just wonder, is he as hungry as maybe he was going into the 2017 season? I don't know. Only he can answer that.
I don't know. We don't talk much. I would say no. Like if I had
I would agree.
If I had to, if I was truth serum here, I would say no.
Well, and
I would say he likes and enjoys what he's got going on, and being an occasional race winner is still really gnarly.
Yeah.
Yes.
And
you still get paid very well.
But to back that up, if you look at his program, it seemed like he was so committed a couple years ago compared to now, right? He's doing New Zealand and Australia in these races. He's spending more time in California now than he used to, right? It just doesn't seem like he's got that boot camp, I'm all in mentality. And he'll be great. Don't get me wrong. I don't want it to seem like I'm coming down on him for this. It just seems like a little bit of a different vibe and a little bit of a different place mentally going into the season. And maybe that works for him. Maybe he makes me eat my words. I think he's going to be good. I just don't see that come out and win races and shock the world that we saw in 2017.
No matter what, he wins some races. We all agree on that. We all agree on that.
Or he's certainly capable of. There's plenty of years where it doesn't work out, but he should win races.
But look, if you remember how the January was of 2017.
18, bro.
Was it 18?
18.
Okay, yeah. 2018 January we were mind blown. I mean, he was
spectacular.
The strongest guy. He was the fastest guy. The last few laps, nobody had anything for him. I just don't know if that's where he's at mentally and physically going into 2020.
Yeah, where we all know all the things we said about Eli Tomac on the show. He has to do it. He has to do it. He's got to finally get this done. We don't know if that, because Anderson already has it, is burning for him. Although I will say something interesting. Everybody loves Team Fried right now. When I was talking to Anderson in Australia a couple weeks ago, he is aware that you can have all this fun, you can appear to have a loose program, not advertise on the side how hard you're really working. He is aware that if your results start to suck, that all turns.
That's the first thing.
It's the first thing people are going to blame. So he is aware that he has to continue to perform well. He's got a Supercross title. Outdoors, he was fine. He didn't win a race, but he's hovering around the podium. He has to stay at that level. If Anderson starts becoming a 7th place dude, the first thing that every fan is going to say is, stop shooting your dumb videos and start winning races. So he doesn't appear to be a guy that has pressure on him, but I think he's aware.
Even if it's completely unrelated, right?
It
still opens the door,
absolutely.
Right? Yeah, that's an unfortunate side effect of giving everyone an open door to your your personal life and your real side, which we know no one does until they've retired. That's once you move into the 450 class, you cease to have a personality until you retire, and then you regain your personality. That's just what we've seen year in and year out. So I do applaud Jason Anderson for allowing the casual fan to see what's going on. That's cool. We never get that, right? We didn't get it from Stu. We didn't get it from Chad. We didn't get it from Dungy. No one. So to have that is great. We don't get it from Eli Tomac now. I would say Kenny is maybe the closest to that, right? He's the most engaging.
Yeah.
But yes, I absolutely agree with your point, but it's the immediate trigger. If he doesn't do well, people are going to blame that on him.
Right, and we all know that shooting 10 minutes of video once a week doesn't affect your training or riding, but that's the first thing to go. I want to thank our sponsors here, which was Pro Taper Fly Racing. Of course, Monster Energy, our title sponsor, LS2, and Matthes Tires. And also big thanks to the folks at Feld who run the Supercross series and gave us the Monster Energy Supercross clips to use in this show. They're redesigning their pit party this year. They're calling it the Riders Lounge. They're going to have our buddy Daniel Blair and my old buddy Jim Holley hosting their Race Day Live show from the pits. They'll have the riders riding down to practice. The fans can interact with that. They'll have places to charge your phone, get some drinks like Monster. So really cool if you go to the races this year. We'll have the schedule up. Pick the race near you, or 2, or 3, or 4, or 5, or 17, and go check it out. Again, this is your Monster Energy Supercross preview show for the 2020 Monster Energy AMA Supercross and FIM World Championship. I'm Jason. It's Steve. It's Jason. Thanks to Keefer over there. We'll be back for episode 2. Thanks for watching.